Trump appears to be walking back where we stand on the latest negotiations with Iran. A senior administration official confirmed to MS Now that the timing of the full agreement is uncertain, but it would not be signed today. Earlier, the president attacked the Iran nuclear deal reached under President Obama, writing that it was, quote, one of the worst deals ever made, and that it was put forth and signed into existence by Obama and the rank amateurs of the Obama administration. He also made sure to make it known that the current deal being negotiated is the exact opposite of the one reached under Obama. Joining us now is Roberta Malli, former special envoy for Iran and lead negotiator on the 2015, one of the lead negotiators on the Iran 2015 nuclear deal with Iran under the Obama administration. Robert, it's great to see you again. Let's start with this deal. The president has repeatedly attacked the Iran deal that you and others negotiated. He seems confident that he'll get a better deal. What do you make of the state of negotiations right now and how you see them playing out?
I mean, first of all, Iman, we just don't know. I mean, there's been this confusion that has reigned, and part of it is because obviously negotiations are secret. Part of it is because the White House and the president in particular has a tendency to say one thing and its opposite within an hour, sometimes 2 hours. I think the reason why at this point we're in a very delicate phase is, number one, any indirect negotiation by definition is liable to misunderstanding because the mediator tries to present a better case to each side in order to get the process rolling. So both sides may think that the deal is better for them than is actually the case. Secondly, the Iranians have no reason to trust President Trump because twice before he's attacked them in the middle of negotiations. So they want to be extra sure that whatever is agreed to will be implemented. That's the second complication. And the third is what I just mentioned. You have in the White House somebody whose mood changes on a daily, sometimes minute-by-minute basis. And I suspect that right now he's getting a lot of blowback from people who are telling him this deal will be worse than the JCPOA. You can't give anything to the Iranians. So maybe Trump, who probably is not even that familiar with what's in the deal, is trying to get a better deal than the one that his envoys may have negotiated through the Pakistanis. So we're not there yet. I think we're closer than we've been in the past, but as you said, anything could happen now, and I wouldn't be surprised if the deal collapsed or if the deal was consummated in the next 48 hours.
I just want to remind our viewers what actually was in the JCPOA. Iran agreed to commit to peaceful nuclear use, limit enrichment of uranium, limit the number of centrifuges, inspections of nuclear facilities, and in exchange, Iran received relief from economic sanctions from the U.S., EU, and UN. Robert, I'm curious if you think we will be able to get anything as good as that set of conditions that were achieved back when you helped negotiate this deal.
You know, I think the debate about what's better or worse than the JCPOA, in some sense, it's irrelevant. The last thing I want to do is convince the president that the deal is worse than the JCPOA, because that's a guarantee that he then won't go for it. I think the real question at this point is, can we get a deal that achieves at least two things? Number one, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which I'd have to remind people who are watching us, was not closed before President Trump went to war. And second, find a way to restore transparency and some control over Iran's nuclear program, which, again, I think we need to remind those who are watching us that wasn't guaranteed by the JCPOA, which President Trump unilaterally withdrew from in 2018. So, all of this, I think, is, even if we get a deal, and a deal will be far, far better than the alternative, and I would applaud it, it would be a very severe indictment of President Trump's policies, because had he not withdrawn from the deal, had he not attacked Iran, had he not led them to close the Strait of Hormuz, then everything he's negotiating now, he wouldn't need to negotiate because it already was dealt with.
Well, Rob, I know you don't want the president to hear you and then to back out of this possible agreement, but already some of his allies are name-dropping you. Mike Pompeo tweeted saying that the deal that's out there, the deal being floated with Iran, seems straight out of the Wendy Sherman, Robert Malli, Ben Rhodes playbook. So not only do we know that Mike Pompeo is criticizing what's happening behind the scenes here, Senator Lindsey Graham seems to be suggesting that he's not really happy with what's happening here. And then also the president's allies in Israel. They don't seem comfortable with the agreement that's on the table, at least the contours of it that they're aware of at this stage. How seriously should people take those corners of his coalition and their efforts to undermine it at this stage? Do you think at this point the president is still really listening to all of those factions?
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he hates being depicted as weak, as you just described, as Mike Pompeo and others said. I'm sure he despises it. And so either he tries to convince or to dismiss them and say they're wrong, or he will back out and try to insist on something better in the deal. I mean, one of the problems that all the critics have is that whatever deal the president is going to reach, any deal that's conceivable, will have some of the quote-unquote flaws that they criticize the JCPOA for. Number one, Iran will continue to insist on the right to enrich. It will do it, and there's no deal no pressure will convince Iran to give that up. And secondly, whatever deal comes into place, it will not address Iran's missile program, its drone program, its support for regional allies. It will just be about the nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. So the vast criticism that all these people who are advocating maximum pressure or war with Iran, all those criticisms would be relevant and pertinent regardless of the kind of deal that President Trump achieves, because it's simply impossible at this point. Despite all the pressure that was put on Iran, they will not capitulate. They won't agree to give up their right to enrich, what they consider their right to enrich, and they won't agree to touch on these other issues, which they consider to be essential for the national defense doctrine. So those criticisms from Lindsey Graham, from Ted Cruz and others, they made it of the JCPOA. If they're honest with themselves, they'll have to criticize whatever deal emerges from President Trump's efforts as well.
Rob, one big if in all of this is Israel. And the reason why I bring that up is because not only have they made their opposition to a deal with Iran clear to this administration, they've also made clear that Iran's demand that the entire region be included in a deal, which means no more war in Lebanon, no more war in Gaza, no more war in Yemen, seems to be, at least from the initial responses in Israel, a non-starter. Israel says it will continue to reserve the right to operate in all of those countries and territories. And it seems that Iran wants to incorporate them into some kind of comprehensive deal going forward. Is that likely to happen? Is there a scenario? Can you imagine a scenario in which Israel agrees not on the Iran nuclear deal, but on no attacks to Lebanon, no attacks to Gaza, no attacks on Yemen?
No. And I think the way they're going to wiggle out of it, and I don't know what Iran could do about it, is that Iran will say they reserve the right to respond to any threat. And then they'll define the threat as, they've discovered an arms cache of Hezbollah in Lebanon, or leaders of Hezbollah who are meeting. Maybe they're plotting against Israel. So they will choose any pretext, I suspect, to continue to attack Lebanon and Hezbollah if they wish to. And they will say that that's consistent with the deal. There probably will be a side agreement between the U.S. and Israel. They would say exactly what I just said and that you intimated, that Israel reserves the right to take action in the face of any threat, and it will reserve the right to define that threat.
Robert Malli, thanks for your time tonight.